I never imagined the first time I would step foot in Italy would also be the day my entire life collapsed. My name is Elena, and for years I believed I had married a good man, Marco, a charming, confident, smooth-talking romantic who made me feel chosen. He wasn't rich, but he had ambition, or so I thought. He promised me a future full of adventure, travel, and partnership. But the truth was something far darker. The trip to Italy was supposed to be our restart. Our marriage had been shaky for months. Marco insisted traveling would reconnect us. Rome, Florence, Venice. He said Italy would heal everything. He even convinced me to let him handle everything. The tickets, the hotels, the finances. I didn't see the danger in letting him take control. I thought it meant he cared. I was terribly wrong. On the second morning in Rome, Marco said he wanted to visit a nearby cafe. "I'll bring breakfast. Stay in the hotel and relax, amore," he told me, kissing my forehead. I waited and waited and waited. An hour turned into 2. 2 turned into 5. I tried calling him. His phone was off. At first, I convinced myself he'd lost his phone, or maybe got stuck somewhere without signal. But then, when I went to the lobby, the hotel manager told me something that punched the breath out of my lungs. "Signora, I'm sorry, but your husband checked out. He said you would follow shortly." My heart stopped. "What? My husband is still out getting breakfast." The manager shook his head. "Signora, he left 3 hours ago, with all your luggage, both passports, and the hotel bill was paid with your credit card." No. My head started spinning so fast I grabbed the counter for support. Marco had left, with my luggage, with our passports, with all our money. I checked my bank account. 0. He had drained everything. Every last cent. I wasn't abandoned in Italy. I was stranded, with no identification, no clothes, no money, no contacts. Just the clothes on my back and a phone at 9% battery. I sank into a chair in the lobby, my chest tight, my fingers shaking so uncontrollably I could barely unlock my screen. My brain kept repeating the same sentence over and over. He planned this. He planned this. He planned this. I felt like a fool, like someone had reached into my chest and ripped out everything I thought my life was. All the signs I had ignored suddenly made sense. The sudden secrecy with finances, the late-night business calls, the way he insisted on managing our accounts, the dismissive attitude whenever I asked questions. And now it was clear. Marco had used me, used my trust, used my love, used my name, used my finances. And now he had discarded me like trash in a foreign country. I cried so hard that the hotel staff didn't know what to do. A kind woman brought me water, but I could barely swallow. My tears came in waves, shaking, suffocating, humiliating waves. I felt like my lungs were collapsing from the inside out. The worst part, my phone battery hit 1%, and then it died. What followed were the darkest 3 days of my life. With no passport, the embassy told me to come back with a police report. With no money, I could barely afford food. With no luggage, I slept in the hotel lobby the first night because the staff felt pity. But on the second night, they couldn't let me stay anymore. I ended up sleeping on a bench near the Spanish Steps, hugging myself against the cold air. I hadn't eaten a full meal in 2 days. My head hurt, my eyes burned. My throat felt raw from crying. I kept replaying my entire marriage in my mind. Every lie, every moment I brushed off my intuition. How could he do this to me? Why me? What did I ever do wrong? How long had he been planning this? I felt stupid, powerless, worthless. By the 3rd day, I was ready to give up. My body felt weak, my hope felt gone. I sat on the curb outside a bakery, unable to move. My entire world had been stolen. I whispered to myself, trembling, "Marco, where are you? Why did you do this to me?" And then, something happened. Something I never, ever expected. Something that changed everything. Something that turned my tragedy into a storm Marco never saw coming. This is where everything shifted. I was on the verge of collapse, starving, exhausted, and hopeless, when I noticed someone sitting on the bench across from me. At first, I didn't pay attention, but then he spoke. "Are you okay?" I looked up. A man, probably in his early 30s, sharp features, dark eyes that seemed to see through everything. He wasn't staring in judgment. He looked concerned. I'm fine, I whispered, my voice barely audible. "No," he said, shaking his head. "You're not fine. You're stranded, alone and scared. You've been crying for hours." I froze. I didn't know whether to feel embarrassed or relieved. How do you know? I asked, my hands shaking. I can tell, he replied simply. Call it intuition, I've seen this before. He introduced himself as Luca, a private investigator, but not the kind you hire for trivial matters. He specialized in international fraud, identity theft, and tracking people who didn't want to be found. You're looking for someone, he said quietly. Someone who left you with nothing. I nodded, barely able to speak. My husband. He stole everything from me. He left me here. Luca's eyes narrowed slightly. He didn't just leave you here. He planned this. My chest tightened. You think so too? He nodded. I can help you find him. I stared at him in disbelief. Why would you help me? You don't even know me. I've seen people like him before, Luca said. They ruin lives without remorse. I couldn't help my brother when he went through something similar. But I can help you. For the first time in 3 days, I felt a spark. Something I thought had died. A glimmer of hope. Luca wasted no time. He helped me contact the Italian police to report Marco's theft and provided a temporary ID to get access to services. More importantly, he explained how he could track Marco. Marco's not just running from you, Luca said, pulling up a map on his tablet. He's running from someone else too, a dangerous network. And he's carrying something he shouldn't. I frowned. Something he shouldn't? What do you mean? He tapped on the screen, showing me photos of Marco leaving Rome with a large black suitcase. This is no ordinary theft. He's stolen from people who don't forgive easily. And now they're after him. That's why he left you behind. You were too close. My stomach twisted. He left me as a shield. Luca nodded grimly. Exactly, but that also gives us an advantage. He thinks you're out of the picture, that he's safe, he's not. We rented a car and began our pursuit. Luca explained that Marco had headed south toward Naples. The closer we got, the more details emerged. Marco had been involved with Anna, a woman tied to the network he stole from. She was a pawn, just like I had been, and possibly more dangerous. I felt sick to my stomach. Marco wasn't just a selfish husband. He was part of something much bigger, something that had nothing to do with love and everything to do with survival. We stopped at a small roadside cafe for a moment of rest. Luca glanced at me. You'll need to stay sharp, he said. This is not a game. He's smarter than you think. And dangerous. I don't care, I said, determination burning in my chest. I just want to confront him. I want my life back. He studied me for a moment. Good, that's exactly what you need. But remember, anger can be dangerous. Focus. We follow the trail piece by piece. The journey south was tense. Every stop, every hotel, every cafe we inquired about brought more hints. Marco was clever. He paid in cash, stayed under false names, and always left before anyone could notice him. But on the third day of tracking, we caught our first real break. A hotel receptionist recognized Marco and Anna from 3 days ago. They had stayed 2 nights at a small inn in Naples, leaving in a hurry. They looked nervous, the receptionist said. Kept checking outside like someone was following them. Luca's eyes lit up. That's good. That means they're afraid of someone. And that means they're slipping. People like Marco always make mistakes when they're scared. I felt a thrill of hope. For the first time, the chase felt real. I wasn't just lost and abandoned. I had a purpose. As we drove closer to Naples, I realized something. My anger toward Marco wasn't enough anymore. The danger surrounding him, this mysterious network, Anna, and whatever he had stolen, was far bigger than my heartbreak. And yet, the thought of him, smirking, thinking he could leave me powerless, fueled me. This isn't just about revenge, Luca said. It's about reclaiming your life. Every step forward, you're taking back what's yours. I nodded, gripping the edge of my seat, and I would not leave until every lie, every theft, every betrayal was exposed. As Naples approached, the sun dipped behind the mountains, painting the city in shades of orange and crimson. It was beautiful and deceptive, because what awaited us there was far darker than anything I had imagined. The streets of Naples were narrower than I expected, twisting like veins through the city. Luca navigated the car through the chaos of scooters, taxis, and pedestrians. Every corner, every turn, seemed to hold a hidden danger. This city breathes tension, Luca murmured. Marco knows it. He's using it to stay one step ahead. I gripped my seat, heart pounding. Every bump in the road reminded me of the 3 days I had spent abandoned, terrified, and alone. Now I was closer than ever, But the closer we got, the more I realized Marco's betrayal wasn't just about money. It was about power, control, survival. We arrived at a small, abandoned warehouse near the port. Luca parked at a distance and motioned for silence. "This is where Marco met Anna," he whispered. "This is where the trail gets dangerous." I swallowed. The thought of him here, so close yet untouchable, made my stomach churn. We approached cautiously. Luca led, flashlight in hand. The warehouse was silent, except for the faint creak of rusting metal. Then, a sound, a door squeaking open. A woman stepped into the light. Blonde hair, blue dress, face bruised but eyes sharp. Anna, her gaze locked on us. For a moment, fear flickered across her face. Then recognition. "Elena?" she whispered. "Yes," I said cautiously. "Who are you?" She hesitated. I'm part of it. Marco brought me here." Luca's jaw tightened. "Part of what?" "The theft, the network," Anna admitted, trembling. "Marco stole from people you don't want to cross. Millions, and now they're after him. And anyone close to him." My heart sank. This was bigger than I thought. Not just a husband abandoning me for greed. This was a web of crime and danger I had unknowingly stepped into. Anna explained everything she knew. Marco had stolen a USB drive containing access to millions in illegal transactions. He thought running with it would secure his escape. "I thought he cared," Anna said quietly, tears in her eyes. "But he left me too, only for himself. He's selfish to the core." I felt a pang of familiarity. Marco's selfishness had hurt me, yes, but now it was more than emotional betrayal. People's lives were at stake. Luca mapped out our next steps. Marco's last known location was the docks, where a small fishing boat could have taken him further south. "We move quickly," Luca said. "He's on the run. And if Falco's men are after him, as I suspect, they're closing in fast." I nodded. Determination surged through me. I would not let him disappear again. Not after everything. We moved like shadows through the port. The salt air stung my lungs, mixing with the fear that coiled tight inside me. I could almost see Marco, thinking he had outsmarted everyone. Then, Luca stopped and crouched behind a stack of crates. "Look," he whispered. Through a gap in the crates, I saw Marco's familiar frame. He was arguing with Anna, gesturing toward a small fishing boat. Fear and desperation twisted his features. "This is it," Luca said. "We intercept him before he escapes. But we have to be careful. He's unpredictable, and desperate men are dangerous." I steadied my hands. My anger toward him was sharp, but my focus was sharper. This was no longer about heartbreak. It was about survival. For me, Anna, and anyone else he had dragged into this mess. We approached slowly, keeping to the shadows. I could hear Marco's voice, panicked. "We can't stay here." "They'll find us!" Anna looked terrified, clutching her purse. "He's losing it," she whispered. "We're too late. He's already in over his head." Suddenly Marco turned, eyes locking on me. Recognition and panic flashed across his face. "Elena," he stammered. "Yes, Marco," I said, voice steady despite the adrenaline surging through me. "It's me, and you're not running anymore." He swallowed hard. "You don't understand." "I understand perfectly," I interrupted. "You abandoned me. You used me. You left me stranded in a country I didn't know. And now you think you can outrun what you've done?" Marco's jaw tightened. "I didn't mean to." "You never mean to," I said coldly. "You only mean to save yourself? And now it ends, here, now." Luca stepped beside me. "Marco, give us the drive. It's over, you can't escape anymore." He shook his head violently. "No, you don't get it. They'll kill me, I need this." "I need it." At that moment, the sound of engines echoed behind the warehouse. Black SUVs. Falco's men. Marco froze. Panic consumed him entirely. "I'm done running," I whispered to Luca. "No more chasing shadows, we end this." The three of us, Marco, Anna, and me, stood frozen as Falco's men approached. The air was thick with tension, fear, and anticipation. Marco looked at me, desperation in his eyes. "Elena, please help me." I shook my head. "You wanted my help when it suited you. Now you face the consequences, alone." The truth settled in my chest like ice. Marco had used me as a shield, a distraction, a pawn. And now the game was ending. The black SUVs rolled to a halt near the docks, engines rumbling like distant thunder. Men in dark suits spilled out, moving with precision and deadly purpose. Marco's face went pale, his confident facade completely shattered. "This is it," Luca whispered, gripping my arm. "Stay calm. Don't let him manipulate you. I nodded, feeling a strange mixture of fear and liberation. For the first time, I realized I wasn't just a victim. I had power now. Power that came from clarity, survival, and anger turned into focus. Marco backed toward the edge of the dock, eyes darting from me to Anna to Luca and finally to the approaching men. His breathing was rapid. "I can fix this," he stammered. "Just give me a chance. I can make it right. Make it right." I laughed bitterly, the sound sharp against the crashing waves. "You abandoned me in Italy with nothing, Marco. You stole from me, betrayed me, and left me to fend for myself. This is your chance to face the consequences." He shook his head violently, his desperation turning to panic. "No, you don't understand. If they catch me, they'll—" "The choice is yours," Luca interrupted, stepping forward. "Surrender now or face the consequences. You can't run anymore." Marco's hand trembled as he clutched the black USB drive, the device containing all the stolen money and incriminating evidence. He glanced at Anna, who looked terrified and lost, and then back at me. His eyes pleaded, but I was done pleading with him. Falco himself stepped out of one of the SUVs, tall, cold, and imposing. He didn't speak at first, just observed, like a predator assessing prey. His eyes landed on Marco, and in a single motion he gestured to his men. Marco froze. "No, no, no!" he cried, backing toward the water. Falco's men advanced with precision, leaving no room for escape. Marco stumbled, trying to clutch the USB drive like it was a lifeline. "This ends now," Falco said quietly, almost softly, but the power in his voice made it clear it was anything but gentle. I stepped forward, my heart hammering. "Marco," I said, voice steady despite the storm of emotions inside me. "Look at yourself. Is this who you want to be? Running, stealing, lying, betraying everyone who trusted you?" He shook his head, tears streaking down his face. "Elena, I didn't mean for it to go this far. I just wanted to survive." "Survival doesn't excuse betrayal," I said firmly. "You left me, you left Anna. You put everyone at risk for your own selfish desires. This is what happens when you prioritize yourself over everyone else." His shoulders slumped as the reality of his actions began to sink in. He looked at Falco, then at his men, and finally at the water below. "You're not a hero," I said. "You're just a coward. And now you'll face what you've done." Marco's lips quivered, but no words came out. He was powerless, exposed, and utterly defeated. Luca stepped forward and took the USB drive from Marco's trembling hands. "It's over," he said, handing it to Falco. The network's secrets, the stolen money, everything that Marco had risked so much for, was now secure. Falco examined the drive briefly, then nodded. "Good. Justice will take its course." Marco sank to the ground, sobbing. He had no allies, no protection, no excuses left. I felt a wave of relief, mixed with a strange sadness. This man had once been my husband, the person I loved and trusted. But now, all of that was gone, replaced by betrayal and consequences. Anna, who had been silent throughout, finally spoke. "Thank you," she said quietly, glancing at me. "You didn't have to come. You could have walked away." "I couldn't," I replied. "Not when someone's life, and my own, was caught in the chaos he created." The sun began to rise over the horizon, casting golden light across the port. The chaos of the night faded, leaving only the calm of morning. The waves lapped gently against the docks, a stark contrast to the storm of emotions and danger that had just passed. Luca placed a hand on my shoulder. "You did well," he said. "You faced him, you faced everything, and you didn't break." I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the last 3 days lift slightly. "It's over," I whispered. "Finally, it's over." Falco's men secured Marco and Anna, ensuring that the network's justice would be served. I watched as Marco was taken away, realizing that the man I had loved and trusted was gone forever. For the first time, I felt truly free. Free from fear, free from betrayal, free from the man who had abandoned me in a foreign land. Luca smiled at me. "Ready to go home?" I nodded, feeling a sense of strength and clarity I hadn't felt in years. "Yes, but this time I go home to myself." The morning air in Naples felt different, fresh, crisp, and full of possibility. The chaos of the previous night had passed, leaving only quiet determination in its wake. I stood at the edge of the dock, watching the sunrise over the water, and allowed myself a rare moment of reflection. 3 days ago, I had nothing. My husband had abandoned me in a foreign country with no money, no documents, and no plan. I had been terrified, lost, and utterly alone. Now, though exhausted and bruised emotionally, I was alive, empowered, and in control of my destiny. The first thing I realized was how resilient humans can be when pushed to the brink. Survival isn't just about food, shelter, or safety. It's about refusing to surrender to fear. Every step of those 3 days had been a battle, not just with Marco and his deceit, but with my own despair. Luca had become more than a guide. He had become a symbol of hope. His calm, strategic approach reminded me that no problem is unsolvable if you approach it with clarity and focus. I remembered sitting on the curb outside the bakery, tears streaming down my face, feeling completely powerless. At that moment, I couldn't see beyond my immediate pain. But even then, a small spark of determination survived, enough to carry me forward when I had nothing else. As Marco was taken away by Falco's men, a strange mix of emotions surged through me: relief, anger, sorrow, and a hint of closure. The man I had loved, the man I had trusted implicitly, had revealed himself to be a coward and a thief. I had forgiven him in my mind countless times for smaller lies, ignoring the red flags. But this betrayal was final. There was nothing left to salvage from our marriage. My trust had been shattered, and my love had been manipulated. Yet even in my heartbreak, I found clarity. Forgiveness was not about him, it was about me. I would not allow anger and resentment to dominate my life. Instead, I would channel my experience into strength, ensuring I never allowed myself to be powerless again. With Marco out of the picture and the network's danger contained, Luca and I focused on practical matters. The embassy issued me temporary documents, the stolen funds were accounted for, and I had regained access to my identity and resources. But more importantly, I regained something intangible: my sense of self-worth. I had survived. I had faced betrayal, danger, and uncertainty, and I had emerged stronger. I knew that returning home wouldn't erase the trauma, but it would mark the beginning of a new chapter. One where I was no longer defined by someone else's deceit or selfishness. One where I could make my own decisions, control my own destiny, and embrace the life I wanted to live. As Luca and I prepared to leave Naples, he turned to me. "You could have let it destroy you," he said. "Instead, you turned it into your power." "That's rare," I nodded, absorbing his words. "It wasn't easy," I admitted. "There were moments I thought I wouldn't survive. Moments I thought I'd lost everything. But you didn't," he said. "You fought. And now you can live on your terms." I realized he was right. The power had always been within me. It just took losing everything to uncover it. My choice to confront Marco, to reclaim my life, and to survive had defined this story, not his betrayal. As Luca and I prepared to leave Naples, he turned to me. "You could have let it destroy you," he said. "Instead, you turned it into your power." "That's rare," I nodded, absorbing his words. "It wasn't easy," I admitted. "There were moments I thought I wouldn't survive. Moments I thought I'd lost everything. But you didn't," he said. "You fought. And now you can live on your terms." I realized he was right. The power had always been within me. It just took losing everything to uncover it. My choice to confront Marco, to reclaim my life, and to survive had defined this story, not his betrayal. Back home, I took stock of everything. My finances, my career, and my sense of identity were no longer tied to anyone but myself. I rebuilt slowly, deliberately, learning to trust myself again. I forged new friendships, renewed family bonds, and pursued opportunities I had once abandoned to follow a man who didn't deserve my devotion. Most importantly, I learned that survival is not merely enduring, it's thriving. It's the ability to rise from devastation, reclaim your power, and live authentically, no matter how deep the betrayal or how far the fall. 3 days in Italy had taught me that life could change in an instant, and that strength, courage, and clarity could emerge from the darkest moments. Marco had left me with nothing, thinking he had destroyed me. But in reality, he had ignited something within me, a fire, a resolve, and a determination to reclaim everything he thought he had stolen. I smiled, feeling the weight of the past lift, replaced by the promise of my future. I had survived. I had reclaimed my life.